Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. I'm Tanner Knight, and today we have a small box here that we're going to open up right now. So let's dig in. Usually when we have boxes this small, it is something music or camera related, but in this case, it is music related. We have the Pigtronix Gatekeeper. This is my very first Pigtronix product as far as I know, and I've been looking for a noise gate for a very long time, and it had to have a few different criteria which we'll get into. But let's see what's inside this box and take a look at the packaging and everything else. So there's a nice foam top and a foam insert where this pedal is nicely inlaid. So there you go, Pigtronix Gatekeeper. I believe they have a mini version of this pedal. This is not that, this is the full-size deal. So we should have a threshold, a release, and an out, and just a little toggle button. So we have the input and power on this side, and then the output on this side. So let's see what else is in this box. We have, I guess this is a pad to put on the bottom of it to stop it from sliding. There's a Pigtronix sticker, pretty cool. There's a little info sheet, and underneath we have the power supply. So it does come with its own power supply. There you go. Let's see if we can't focus on that. That's our power supply, and according to this, it's DC power, of course. The Pigtronix Gatekeeper comes with an 18-volt DC negative tip power supply. 18-volt DC power provides massive headroom for crystal clear tones with any instrument. Gatekeeper does not take batteries, so you can't run this thing with batteries even if you wanted to. There's some information about the warranty, and on the back, there's a whole, there's a whole explanation of how to work this thing, but I think we can figure it out. So let's go ahead and plug this in and do an A/B comparison with and without it. All right, so we're going to be playing through this Rev G20 head today that is currently plugged into this EVH 2x12 cab, which features two Electro Voice EVM 12-inch speakers. So that's kind of been my preferred amp rig for these last couple weeks. This is a relatively new amp and speaker configuration, but that's what we're going to be playing. And the guitar is going to be this Ernie Ball Music Man Axis Super Sport. This is the rosewood version of this guitar, which means we have a rosewood neck, rosewood fretboard, which is a slab fretboard as well, and a rosewood top. I believe the back is basswood, but for the most part, this is a rosewood guitar that we're playing, and it's going into this amplifier. From there, we have one microphone, this Sennheiser E906. I'm going to move it up to the correct cab here after this, but that will be capturing the sound probably on the left speaker of the EVH cab, and that will be fed directly into my Focusrite 18i20 Scarlett interface. So that's the rig. I'm going to go ahead and train the camera on the pedal board now, since that's where most of the action is going to take place from here on out. Alright, so this is a pretty comprehensive look at my pedal board as it has stood for the last, year or so. I've added the Super Overdrive most recently, but that was still not too much of a departure from what you see here. Just to give you a quick rundown, our chain starts at the guitar and it goes into the wah. And then from the wah, it goes to the turbo distortion, the Super Chorus CH1, the Metal Zone MT2, the Ibanez Tube Screamer, the Super Overdrive SD1 into the looper station, the RC1 loop station, also by Boss. So before we get too far, what's going on with this looper here? Why are there two inputs into either side and two outputs, or what's going on? So this is a really great looper for me specifically, and a lot of other people too, but it has two inputs, which means you can plug a guitar and a bass or a second guitar into there. So you can theoretically have two people playing a loop simultaneously, capture that loop, or you can have one person bouncing between two instruments. You capture the loop on the guitar, pick up the bass, and go ahead and crank through it. Both instruments are captured independently on their own loop track, and you really got a great option there if you want to make a lot of noise with one person. So that's kind of how I run. The one thing I've wanted to add is a noise gate, and I went through a lot of them. Ideally, I think you want one that can plug into the input and the output and clean the signal from both sides, but that's not the one that I got. I went with this Pigtronix one because it got really high ratings, number one. Number two, it's simple, and I think that it can help out quite a bit just by adding it either to the front or the back of this pedal board. Now that's kind of what I don't know, is where this thing is going to sit. I think typically it should sit at the end of the chain because we've got guitar coming in this way, going this way, and theoretically you would want the noise gate here closest to the amp or after the loop station. I think I'm going to put it before the loop station since we do have the bass and the guitar in the mix. So I don't know what that will do to things, but I don't think I even have the option to have the noise gate after the looper switch if I want both of them. It's either going to be one or the other, bass or guitar. Just so you have a baseline of what this rig sounds like without a pedal in the mix. Very nice humbucker sounds out of this Ernie Ball Music Man guitar, and very clean sound. So I just drop my volume because I do that out of habit, but if I leave the volume up, which it is right now, it's pretty dang quiet. So there's no need for a noise gate before these pedals. We're gonna try it just in case to see what happens, but first I want to put the noise gate in the position where I think it makes the most sense, right before the looper, after the super overdrive. So let's go ahead and do that now. I've got another cable here, so I'm just going to unplug this one, and we want to go into the in on the Pigtronix, and the out will go to the Boss loop station. And it's kind of snaking around, and unfortunately all I have right now are these kind of 3-inch dual-sided cables. You can see that's what I'm using for all of these connections. So it's not the cleanest pedal board, but it gets the job done, and the only thing we need now is the independent power source for this pedal since it is an 18 volt. These power supplies that I have powering the other pedals are 9 volt, so it does require its own 18 volt power supply, which thankfully it ships with. Alright, so now you can see that we have the pedal plugged in and we have one light illuminated. It says mute. I'm not exactly sure what that means. It's not muted. But if we hit the button, we actually do turn on the noise gate. And if I play really quietly, I don't know if you can pick that up. It's not making any noise, but if I slam on it, you get something coming through. So that's kind of the basic functionality here. But we do have our threshold and release knobs, which will hopefully get us the right amount of gate to keep any noise out of the signal. So let's just go ahead and play with those. Okay, I see what's happening. So when the noise gate is on, this button is muting the sound. So that's why it's saying it's muted when that is on, and it's basically taking all of the signal that this dial is letting through, and everything else is muting. If you have the threshold at 0, it takes a lot to unmute it. But if you wind that dial back, then it lets the whole signal through, no problem. So I assume we're gonna want that somewhere in the middle. And the release is how much noise is on the release. Usually if there's like a hum or some sort of terrible feedback on the release, then this is where you would dial that in. So this isn't doing much right now because there's not any noise in the system. So let's try to introduce a little bit of noise by going right to the metal zone. So right away you can tell that there's noise. There's way more noise in the signal. And I know that it's hard to pick up over this microphone. This dynamic Sennheiser microphone is good at filtering out some of those crappy sounds, but you should be able to hear how terrible that is. So let's just hit the noise gate. And it's already muting out some of those sounds. So if I have the threshold cranked all the way, then it's basically saying everything is noise. We're not going to let anything through. But if we dial that back, and that release dial, let's play with that a little bit. If you have it cranked all the way, I don't know, it doesn't really tend to do much. So I think all the way to the left here is the shortest release, and just cut it off as soon as it stops, and then all the way over here is a little more forgiving on the release. So, interesting. I think that's a really good quick demo of how this product works. It's designed to keep noise out of your speakers while you're not playing, is basically what it comes down to. So if you notice, every now and again it'll pick up one of those little scratches and not treat it as noise, but not all of them. It's selective, and those dials are pretty sensitive. So we can bump this close to 0. And those scratches are much harder to get through the mix. So probably somewhere right So I'm basically just doing a few quick strokes and palm muting to see how quickly it's going to cut that sound off. And sometimes it lets a little feedback through, other times it doesn't. But cool, so I'd say that that's a successful product. Of course, I'm not always in the metal zone. And this is where, you probably just turn it right off when you're not in that heavy metal zone, super overdrive type land. Let's see the super overdrive just for kicks. This is a pretty quiet pedal already. I just palm mute the strings and pretty much all the noise goes away, but let's hear what it sounds like with the noise gate. Little chippy there. Let me bump these back a little bit. I think they can get a little too digital sounding. Awesome. Once you stop the sound, it's great at muting it and not letting any of those noisy frequencies through to the speaker. So let's go ahead and try this at the front of the mix and just see if it filters out anything. I don't even know. It seems like it would not have any effect on any of the pedals if it were plugged in before the wah-wah pedal, but just since we're here, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I got it stuffed up in the corner there, and I obviously don't think this is going to do very much, but I just wanted to see what would happen just in case. And let's go ahead and go back to full volume. Let's add the Metal Zone MT2. No shit. Wow, I didn't think that it would have any effect. It's a little harsh, so let's bump those dials down. But still a little quick, I think mostly on the release. Let's put that somewhere in the middle. Wow, so that's very effective at the full threshold. I don't think there's anything left in that dial. It still cuts out the sound. Wow, that's really effective in that position too. I think even more so. I didn't expect it to be. So, interesting. Let me just take it off. Yeah, that sounds really good. I think that it takes out a little bit of the extra noise that the MT2 produces just through its gain stage in the other configuration, but this one sounds really clean and really controllable and poppy. I like it. All right, so there you go. We have the Pigtronix Gatekeeper Noise Gate. This is the pedal that I've been wanting to add to the arsenal for a long time, and I don't know how it does it, but it cleans up the signal, even if it's in front of the pedal that it's cleaning up. So there's some weird physics going on here, but kudos to the people at Pigtronix for making a product that works in either position on your pedal board. That adds a little bit more versatility. If you're going for a very specific sound, then you have two usable options. And, you know, I'm not saying that the sound is terribly different between the two, but if you're a real tone chaser, then hey, there's another little trick in your arsenal to try. So Pigtronix Gatekeeper Noise Gate, pretty nice product. I think that this is going to help clean up a lot of the guitar tracks in some of my recordings and take a lot of that noise out that I have to edit and post. So that's a nice little studio tool, a nice live performance tool, you name it. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions about this or anything else on the pedal board, I know this is probably the most comprehensive deep dive we've done into the pedal board in a while, so if you have any questions, now's the time to answer them and I'll see what I can do. Like and subscribe if you like this type of content, that always helps, and hopefully we will see you on the next one. Thank you.